Hello everyone. Here I'll say it first. Writing tests, it's not fun. Actually, I just rather spend my time coding new features than testing them and write tests later, which means never. Actually, let's just do a quick survey here. So, who here has had to write unit tests at some point? Raise your hand. Okay, lots of you. Who here likes testing? Okay, we have a few liars here, but yeah, we'll get to the point later. But here's the thing, tests are very important. You need them, your code base needs it, we need them. And the thing is, you need the tools to write them easily, because if you don't have them, well, it's gonna be even more of a pain. This is why this year the JavaScript framework team came up with a new testing framework for unit tests in Odoo. And so yeah, my name is Julien Mougenot, and today I will present to you Hoot. So what is Hoot? What does that even mean? Well, it stands for Hierarchically Organized Odoo Tests, and it's definitely not a silly excuse for having a name along with our test component framework. But yeah, here it is. It is a client-side unit test framework. It's client-side, so it runs in the browser, and it is unit testing as opposed to integration testing, which is TORs. And since yeah, it's in-house and it has integrated DOM, helpers, and assertions. So I mentioned it was unit testing because we also have tools which are meant for integration testing, and this will be presented further in a talk tomorrow. Okay, so why do we even bother testing? Why is it important? Well, I'll tell you. The first reason is that it offers the stability to your code base. It makes your code robust. It means that if you have tests on a continuous integration system, it makes it much harder to break your code. It also allows you to test locally that the code you're trying to push isn't going to break anything later on. And lastly, it gives you a list of executable specifications. What I mean by this is that you can read tests and actually see what the feature is supposed to be doing. But now you may ask, Julien, did you invent the wheel? Why did you make something homemade? Well, we do love doing that in Odoo, reinvent the wheel, but it's always for good reasons, well, mostly. So here, the first is that it's fully customizable. We have full control over what we can do with it, and this is a bit of a frustration we had previously. If you're not new to unit testing in Odoo, you may know QUnits, and it was a bit frustrating sometimes. We wanted to add features and implement things, and it was tedious, so now we have something we can call our own and do whatever we want with it. We integrated a lot of helpers. As I mentioned, it's focused around the DOM, so interacting and asserting things in the DOM. And yeah, lastly, we wanted to do it incrementally. We didn't want to completely and radically change the way we wrote unit tests, so we wanted something that looked like units but was a bit more shaped the way we wanted. So yeah, this is to make incremental steps over the previous one. Okay, so now let's write tests. Here's a very basic example of a test. I'll tell you real quick what it does, but the main thing you have to remember is you have to put your tests in this folder, in the static test folder of your add-on. Then you have to end your test file name with test.js. And finally, you have to add it in the appropriate bundle, because in Odoo, everything works in bundles. So you have to add the file in the assets bundle, assets unit tests. And you're done. Now you can go to web tests and run your tests. But you have to write them first, right? So let's go through the fundamentals. Here you have a very complex function adding two numbers together, and as it's very complex, we want to check that it does what we want it to do. So we'll first write a test case. It's done with the test function, which is the first method exported by Hoot, and it declares a test case, basically, what you want a feature to be doing. And then we can start expecting things. We expect the result of the add function to be something else. And this is exactly what we'll do. We'll expect 1 and 2 to be 3, and -1 and 2 not to be 2024. We have matches which are to be to equal, for example, which are respectively for strict and deep equality, and we have modifiers to invert, for example, the result of the matcher. And there are many more. Actually, if you're familiar with modern testing frameworks like Jest or Dino, Bun, and so on, they all use the same syntax, and we borrowed this as well. And the matches are actually a bit similar as well. But we have more. We have a lot of standard matches. I mentioned to be and to equal. There is also to match for string partial equality. There is to throw, to assert that a function did throw something. And we have another category of matches, which is specifically tailored for DOM elements. So basically, the expect function takes either an element or a collection of elements or a string, which is a DOM selector, and the assertion will occur on all the elements matching what has been given. So to have count, to count that, to assert that a certain selector matches a given count of elements, to be visible in the interface, to have a given text, class name, properties, and so on. And there is a lot of them as well. So yeah, this is for DOM assertion. Now, DOM interaction is also very important. You want to simulate actual user interaction for testing your components accurately. So let's try to simulate a click. Well, if you want to do that, if you're familiar with JavaScript, of course, you will know that to simulate a click, you dispatch a new event on an element, and that will call all the handlers that are bound to the click event. And that's what we do. We dispatch a click event. Okay, but that's not the whole thing. Now, you see, if your user clicks on its mouse, well, you have a pointer down and pointer up events before, and you have to dispatch them as well. Okay, so now the click helper now has to do this. But if you're on desktop and you have a mouse, you have mouse events as well. And if you're on mobile or a touch device in general, you have touch start and touch end replacing the mouse events. Okay, that's the whole click sequence, right? Well, yeah, but the thing is, you have to bring your cursor on the target to click on it. So you have to dispatch all the pointer, enter, move, leave, hover on the previous target if there was one, and on the current target now that there is one. That's it, right? No, it's not it, because you have the mouse events counterparts of these events I just mentioned, and if the target is an interactive element, so like a button, an input or something like that, you have to focus it and blur the previous one. If it's an input, you also have to select the whole text value if you click on it. Okay, that's a lot. Are we missing anything? Well, actually you missed something because you didn't configure the events properly. You didn't give them the right parameters and the right constructors. You didn't check the official documentation properly, and now you don't have events bubbling correctly. They are not cancelable. You may have forgotten to include the client X and Y position, screen X and Y, page X and Y. You didn't give the right click or left click button, and you didn't use the right event constructor. Okay, this is a lot, and you don't want to take care about that each time you want to trigger a simple click. So let's go back to the beginning. We want to simulate a click. We don't want to have a headache. And Hoot does provide now a helper, which is called click, which takes a selector and will perform all the events I have just mentioned. So you want to simulate a click, you call click. You want to simulate a key press, you call the press function with a key you want to press. You want to simulate an input addition, you first click on the target and you edit whatever has been focused, because the click has taken into account the fact that you had to focus something. Great. Now, yeah, that you can interact with things, assert things, we can write tests for DOM elements. So you may know that in Odoo we do all the rendering with OWL, the testing, the component framework. So we will test components. So I will have a basic test here with the counter component, something very complex with a button and text displaying the value, revolutionary. So we first have to mount it on the fixture. We call that the fixture. It's actually an HTML element to do DOM stuff on it. And we have a helper to do this. The helper is just here to handle the teardown of the component after the test. So you have one line to basically do it all. Mount the components and handle, well, actually not handle anything else, because who does it for you? Now we can click on it to do to actually interact with the counter components. You see, as I mentioned, click takes a selector, which will here match the button of the counter and click on it. Next, we can do assertions. So here we call the expect function with to have text, which is a DOM matcher, so it can take a selector. And here we assert that the value has actually changed before and after the click. Last thing to note is that since OWL is, as many things in JavaScript, asynchronous. We have to wait for things to happen. We have to wait for the component to have been properly mounted, and we have to wait after the click has been dispatched that a whole animation frame has happened. This is a bit more technical, but basically this is because OWL works with animation frames. It batches renders and it doesn't update immediately. Great. Well, now that we know how to test components, I can just show you what it looks like, because this is all just code, right? So here is the actual UI. So this is the web test controller, and you can see that it looks like this. So this is, I have creating a nice add-on here with a few tests, and you can see what it looks like. Here you have the test results. You can expand them. You can choose to run them individually. I'll talk about the debug mode later. You can choose to run the suits individually. Those here are the other suits that we use in Odoo. And yeah, so here is the basic interface. I can show you that if you press F5, it will run the test runner with all the tests it has picked up and have been filtered. You can see here, I just chose to run my add-on. Okay, so now just to mention the hierarchical part is that you can see here the name of my add-on, and here we have two suits that are actually correspond to what I have here. So here's my add-on, the static test folder, and you have the two test name here with just the test.js part that has been omitted. We also omitted the static test folder because it's there every time. So you just end up with these two suits in the UI. I'll just now write a new test in front of you. So, for example, I have this awesome calculator component here that I wrote, which does basic additions. I want to test that, so here I'll do it. So, first thing you want to do is write the test function, of course. I give my test case a name. In this case, the calculator perform basic operations. Now we give it a function, and we can mount it on a fixture. So these helpers have been exported by Hoot. So we mount the calculator component I have created in this add-on. I can now perform basic expectations so that the calculator has exactly one occurrence in the DOM, the input is cleared, and the results are cleared as well. So now I can just show you what it looks like here. I think it should work. So yeah, here it is. I have my tests, and you can see all the assertions passed. Great. Now we can go further. We can actually do something. I will expect the result to have 9, and then I will actually click on the input I have selected, and then edit the content with 3 times 3, for example. I can actually try to see if it passes, but I forgot something. I forgot that two things actually. I forgot that OWL was asynchronous because this is again a bit more technical, but basically know that the await keyword here is just awaiting that the event has been dispatched. But the component maybe didn't have time to render properly, so we still have to wait for an animation frame. The second thing is that I didn't validate anything. I just did the edit part. And I didn't press enter, so I just press the button, but nothing happens because, well, I have maybe listened on the onChange event. And so you have to take that into account, press enter, for example, to validate the input. And now we can see that it actually works. Computer is fast today. So the calculator works now. And I can even put more assertions. Here, for example, I assert that 25 divided by 0 in JavaScript, well, that gives infinity, and I can just rerun the whole suit and show that it works. Okay, that's wonderful. But here's the thing. Maybe you just want to have more information about your tests or the component. You want to see that visually it's still okay. And this is what this thing helps you. The debug mode basically allows you to run the tests and once it's over, not tear it down and actually give you more information about what happened. So here I can show you the source code. Well, it's not highlighted, but we're working on that. But you can see that these are the steps I wanted for my tests, and here are the actual events it triggered. I mentioned the click event with this whole sequence. Well, here it is. You have the pointer over and pointer move because it assumes initially that the cursor is on the 0, 0 coordinates, and then it has to move onto the input to focus it. And then you have the click event here. And yeah, so these are the event sequences. That's wonderful. So yeah, there are other things. I don't have time to go through the entire interface, but know that it is meant to help you find things quicker. So you have here the suits you may want to execute, the whole list. Here you can filter things. You can filter to include or not include things. You also have a series of tags. I didn't mention that. So basically, tests can be tagged. And in Odoo, we use tags, desktop and mobile, to discriminate between tests which must run in specific environments or omit the tag if they can be run in both. Also, yeah, we have a few configuration options. I won't go into detail. There will be documentation for that. And just yet to mention, we have dark theme because we're classy, of course. All right, so let's continue. Well, actually, let's wrap up because I have told you everything I think you had to know. So basically, the first thing is tests are important. Do test. Do write a test. It will save you some time because you will spend time now. It's investment for time you won't lose later. Unit integration, both are important. It's also a slider. Sometimes you want to test several units of tests together. You can do very specific or very broad. It's up to you. But write a test. That's good. Next thing is I only showed you Hoot here, which is the base framework, which is the building blocks on top of which the rest of the test framework is built. And the test framework is also it also includes the web add-on, in which we define a whole lot of helpers to mount, well, not simple components, but more advanced components, fields, views, mock services, create a whole mock server with mock models and views. But yeah, this is not the subject for today. I don't have time for this. And yeah, here is the last thing. It's a bit new. Hoot didn't exist last year. It's this year's invention. And it's still being improved. So if you have feedback, of course, I'll be very glad to hear about it. And lastly, sadly, the documentation, we didn't have time to push it yet, but it will come very soon on the official repo. And this will include both the documentation for Hoot and for the web extension of the framework. Thank you for listening to me. I'll now listen to your questions. If you have any, you can scan on the pad. Yeah, actually, can maybe see it on here.
So we give you 1 minute as we continue going through your questions, and then we'll start going through them one by one.
Okay, I'll also already answer the first one maybe. So can Hoot test in CI? So that's a good question. We run it actually in the Python tests. As a Python test, actually, which spawns a browser and heads to, well, this URL. Well, currently it doesn't have really headless functionality because we wanted the browser to actually render the whole DOM, the whole style, to be sure that everything appears as it should be in the final environment. We have thought about optimizing a few tests marked as headless to speed them up, but this is just a project. Know that we are thinking about it though. But basically know that there is a headless option. It's not really headless, it just allows the runner to not run the entire interface I showed you before, and that speeds up a bit the time.
Okay. Is Hoot suitable for TDD?
Well, yes. I haven't talked about this, but yeah, test-driven development. We don't actually do that a lot. We don't do it as we should do it actually, because I think TDD is very nice. But yeah, it hasn't been thought with that in mind first class. But yeah, actually, I don't have a clear answer to that question because we haven't tried this really internally.
Okay. Yeah, so to the third question, is it available only on Odoo 18 or is it available on?
It's appeared in Odoo 17.2, so 18 actually. So yeah, it's only available from this version on. Previously we had QUnit with a whole lot of internal test helpers, but it was a bit of a mess. You had the click helper was declared at least 5 times, I think, in the whole test suite. So it was here in an effort to centralize things. I can also see that a question is for about where Hoot is, and is it used only in Odoo? Currently, it's not an external library. It's in the web add-on, basically in the lib folder. So you can't really use it for your personal projects. Here, it's really thought for Odoo, but we can think about expand it later. Yeah, we haven't thought about this, but since it's new, we may actually have lots of feature requests, and we are considering things. So it's a good idea, actually. Yeah, we can envision that in the future, but we have to we have a pipeline we have to respect, actually. But we don't have many resources on that project, so we try to implement as much as we want, but yeah, we have to make priorities.
They're also asking about any documentations.
So yeah, as I mentioned, the documentation is still being written.
Okay.
So you should see it coming in the official repo, the official Odoo documentation in master in a few weeks or months. I can't promise anything, but it's gonna be here, I promise.
Okay, all right. Let me go through. I think most of the questions are also being answered. Any documentations? Is this in? So how to have the panel like you show for testing? I think that's the last question.
So which one?
The last one there.
How to have the panel you show for testing? Well, here it's as I said. Here you have the URL web /tests to run the test UI actually.
Okay.
Oops. Yeah, what happened to all tests? We converted them incrementally, so there are still a few. QUnits still exists in Odoo, but we're deprecating it basically, and so they are being converted. They are mostly converted, and we are planning to convert the rest this year.
Sure. I don't know. I think that's it from my end, unless we are missing anything. When will we see QUnit be deprecated? Sorry.
Hopefully when we convert all the tests. So hopefully by V19 it's gonna be gone. Yeah.
They're asking, is it in its stable current state? Is it stable in its current state?
It's considered stable, yeah.
Okay.
From V18 onwards. Yep.
Sure. I think that's basically it. In case of more questions, I'm sure
I think
we have
most of it is answered. All right.
Sure.
Thank you very much.